Leland.
last year?
Some really rough judges.
My goodness. Please have a seat. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome by introducing yourselves, and then you can introduce yourselves. I'm the teacher coach. My name is Maggie. I am a government intern here in Bakersfield at Leland.
My name is Lisa Holder. I'm an attorney here in Bakersfield at Foothill law firm, and I have been judging legal people for about 13 years, and I also coach a high school nonprofit. So welcome to Bakersfield.
Hi, my name is Ben Glickman. I'm a Deputy Attorney General with the state. I represent the state and state officers in civil litigation primarily. Also an alumnus of this program. I was lucky enough to be on a national championship team way back in 1995, so a few years before you guys were born.
Great. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, please. What time is it?
Oh, it's afternoon. Good afternoon. We are Foothill High School's Unit 5. My name is Maggie Wade.
My name is Leland, Zhang.
My name is Will Carlson.
And my name is Anirudh Rengarajan. And we want to thank the judges, the timekeeper, and the audience for being here today, as well as the shooter coach, Mr. Dedamore.
We score very strictly on the morning, afternoon. I'm glad you checked.
Where is Mr. Dunmore?
Dating the
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
So today's question is question number 2. Free speech is a cornerstone of the American liberties. It is easy for the government to protect free speech we like. However, it is much more difficult to protect speech we abhor. What is free speech, and what role does government have in protecting or limiting it? How has the meaning of free speech changed over the course of American history? What limits on speech, if any, should be enforced on high school or college campuses? You may begin when you are ready.
Our unit defines free speech as the principle supporting an individual's ability to articulate their conscience without fear of retaliation or censorship from the government. The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. In Gitlow v. New York, 1925, the court demonstrated that the First Amendment is crucial at all levels of government by selectively incorporating the free speech clause to the states.
Part of being able to exercise one's conscience is the ability to express oneself in even controversial ways. In Batal v. Tam, 2017, Justice Samuel Alito stated in the unanimous opinion that the proudest boast of our free speech jurisprudence is that we protect the freedom to express the thought that we hate. The interpretation of speech is inherently subjective, and it is very difficult to censor one opinion without risking the reduction of fundamental liberties.
In addition to protecting speech, government is responsible for regulating its venues and determining whether speech is disruptive. In Cox v. New Hampshire, 1941, the Supreme Court held that governments may pass time, place, and manner restrictions on free speech, provided that laws are content neutral, narrowly drawn, serve a specific government interest, and leave open alternative channels of communication. Through these regulations, the government can divide the exchange of ideas into public and non-public forums.
Our unit categorizes the development of free speech into 3 legal periods throughout American history where the concept held different meanings: the foundational, nationalistic, and absolutist eras. The foundational era started in the 18th century when the backlash against British tyranny and the oppressive Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 solidified the belief that anyone should have the right to speak, regardless of their citizenship status or stance against the government.
In the nationalistic era, dominating the first half of the 20th century, the court took a limited approach to free speech to maintain unity amongst the people. The era was characterized by fears regarding un-American activities, and the legal system grew to become intolerant of political dissent. Zhang v. U.S. 1919 established the clear and present danger test, granting the government the ability to silence speech perceived to be harmful. However, in Brandenburg v. Ohio 1969, the court ended the nationalistic era by establishing the imminent lawless action test to provide an even stricter guideline for limiting speech.
During the absolutist era, which emerged with the counterculture and free speech movements of the late 1960s and continues today, the court exemplified a new affinity for protecting all forms of speech, even profanity or political actions. The court expanded such rights further to include money in Buckley v. Vallejo, 1976, pushing boundaries towards an all-inclusive legal protection of the right.
High schools and college campuses are unique places where speech has different limits because of the educational system's inherent necessity for order. our unit agrees with Tinker v. Des Moines in 1969, which held that high schoolers have protected political speech so long as it does not agitate their learning environment. However, students have the burden of proof in showing that their school violated their First Amendment rights, and as a result, students have freedom of speech by law, but in practice can easily be silenced.
On the other hand, since colleges are seen as limited public forums, ideas can be expressed more freely than in high schools with standard time, place, and manner restrictions. In 2017, conservative speaker Mala Yiannopoulos was forced to cancel a speaking event at UC Berkeley due to rioting occurring around the venue. Maggie and I agree with the university's intervention because the safety of students and faculty come before funding political speech.
However, Leland and I believe this heckler's veto, or silencing of a controversial speaker through threat and violence, demonstrates the larger societal issue of people using acts of aggression to silence speech they abhor. In the dissenting opinion, Feiner v. New York, 1951, Justice Black argued that the government should protect controversial speakers rather than silence them. The heckler veto negatively affects college campuses by infringing on individuals' rights to exercise their freedom of speech. Thank you.
So on Monday, I will be taking a field trip with my students to USC. And as a chaperone, I am actually planning to wear my Make America Great hat. Am I allowed to do that as a public school teacher?
Yes, you are. The school administrators, teachers, and students do not give up their First Amendment rights when they enter a school building or on a field trip. And this was established in Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969, in which Justice Abe Fortas stated that in order for us to set a good example for our students and our future, we have to protect our First Amendment rights in the school system.
However, while political speech is something that is extremely valued on school grounds, there are certain things, like, for example, the Make America Great Again hats, that have developed a kind of controversial issue. And despite this, they are still a form of speech that should be protected in schools. Because schools are inherently designed to prepare students to go out into the world and either engage themselves in government or to just make America a better society. And if you bar students from, or even faculty, from being able to express those views that school is specifically designed to help influence, then you're stopping an integral part of the school system.
I
So-
believe,
I just want to follow up on that. So, I mean, surely there's a line somewhere. So the MAGA hat's okay, but what about a shirt that says "Build the Wall" or "Muslims go home"? Or, you know, is there a line somewhere where a teacher could be limited in what he or she is able to wear at school?
yes, there is actually developed from the case in Tinker v. Des Moines is the substantial distraction test. If any type of speech, whether it be the expression that was demonstrated on the t-shirt or the hat, creates a substantial distraction to the learning environment and preventing students from learning because they may be uncomfortable or they are feeling attacked by that type of speech, then the administration at their discretion has the ability to limit it. And I believe in this this prerogative of the administration to use the substantial distraction to ensure that the educational environment is held at the utmost importance in this situation rather than the First Amendment ability.
So I work at a school that's primarily composed of an immigrant population. Does that mean that it is incorrect, or I should be prohibited from wearing my red hat?
I don't think so. I think that controversial speech should be protected even on school campuses, mainly because although the school administration does act in place of the students' parents, I think that the open discussion of ideas, even when controversial, should be risked in order to demonstrate to people that their First Amendment rights go all the way down to their school system.
I disagree with Leland. I believe that the First Amendment, as we know it, as established in Abrams v. U.S. in 1819, where the First Amendment creates this marketplace, this vibrant marketplace of ideas, that exists in a normal public forum. But in a school, there needs to be a lower level or a more flexible First Amendment so that the learning environment is held to the most importance in this situation. And so if you are in a lower income community in which President Trump's campaign hats, like Make America Great Again, make the students uncomfortable, then it becomes so much of a distraction that it might cause the students to look away from their education and more focus on this controversial topic.
So you described what the standard is in a high school, and what about in a college? Is it a more liberal standard, more permissive of speech, of controversial speech?
In colleges, it is much more allowed for controversial speech to be expressed because colleges are considered more of a limited public forum in the sense that you can say most anything as long as it does not directly impede, similar to the Tinker test, with the goings on of the school. However, as long as this speech is protected, so long as it is still conveying thoughts or opinions that are valuable to the school, because the purpose of college as universities is to express people to new ideas.
I would agree with Will. I believe that when you're on a college campus, with the idea of a limited public forum, you can regulate content inside of a limited public forum. The college can choose what speakers to invite and whatnot. However, to have a true marketplace of ideas, as John Stuart Mill once stated, you need to have as many political opinions as possible. And as a result, colleges like UC Berkeley have been inviting speakers to sort of promote the sort of concept of the marketplace of ideas. However, we have seen that obviously with the issues of the heckler's veto and whatnot, that it has posed a lot of questions as to, where do you draw the line, what speakers do you allow and whatnot.
I want to go back to the high school because I've got a bone to pick. When I was a senior in high school, I was suspended for 1 week for creating an underground newspaper. I made this newspaper off campus. I distributed this newspaper off campus. I didn't do anything on the campus of the high school. That was totally wrong, right? So defend me. This is why I became a lawyer. It's 25 years later. Tell me I was right.
Yes, you are correct. You should not have been banned from publishing a newspaper outside of school grounds. In the case Hazelwood School District v. Kohlmeyer in 1988, the court ruled that schools can vet sort of media produced by the students so long as it's conducive to the school environment. However, because you publish a newspaper outside of school, you're not under the regulation of the school. You're under the regulation of your guardians and whatnot. I think that when you put that in mind, I don't think you should have been suspended from school for a week.
And recently, actually, there's a very similar case that is actually very similar to your circumstance going on right now. I believe it's in Michigan. Two high school seniors decided to write a disparaging article against one of their teachers who was accused of sexual misconduct. And however, though the school limited their speech, they decided to open up a newspaper website on their own outside of school. And the school currently is actually trying to sue the students and limit their speech. But I think that because their speech is is by themselves and is owned by them, I think that they should be allowed to express their opinions, mainly because they are in an open public forum.
So just to be clear, are you saying off-campus activities or speech can never be regulated by the school?
I believe it can. To take it back to the reasoning which the administrator used in your case was the speech or the newspaper articles that you published outside of school might have brought speech into the school, which might have caused a substantial disruption, taking it back to the Tinker test, which could cause controversy amongst the students or cause talking to happen. And so when that speech outside of the school proliferates into the school, it becomes a problem, which is, I believe, is the most likely reason as to why they suspended you.
That being said, there are certain circumstances in which the school can limit your speech even when it's not directly on school grounds. In the case Fraser v. Morse v. Frederick, 2007, there was a student that had an obscene sign that was right across the street from the school campus as the Olympic torch was running by. It might have not been on the school grounds, but they were still able to limit it because it was directly affiliated with the school's image and the message they were trying to convey. And when your message, what you're trying to express, while the First Amendment is important, if it does impede, and this goes back to the sentiment of the Tinker test itself, when it impedes with the goings-on of the school or the reputation of the school itself, it can be limited.
Any concluding thoughts? Time is almost up. I beg your pardon?
Free speech is the cornerstone of American liberty.
They really suspended you for a week?
I don't know if it was a week, but I definitely got suspended. Is Kevin Johnson still at your school? It was him.
No, he retired.
Yeah, it was him. It's exactly what you said, and it's like, we the people students are like a vice principal's worst nightmare. I was making all the arguments, but he was not having it. What?
Justice for
Yeah, no.
So I loved your prepared remarks. I love that as a team you had a good volume level. It wasn't too loud, but it also wasn't too whispery. You had good diction and you had tone inflection, which we really appreciate as we're trying to break down and understand the things that you were trying to tell us. I specifically like that you laid out your prepared remarks by breaking it down to 3 legal periods. That was a very unique way to convey the message to us, and I highly appreciate that from you as a panel. Maggie, I really particularly enjoyed how much you and Leland actually went back to anchoring all of your discussion around Tinker. As a whole, your panel, I felt, has the most thorough and deep understanding of the actual Supreme Court case, and that really shined through the entire time. I was highly impressed by your follow-up remarks. I felt like we were just having a conversation the entire time, and that's what this should feel like for you guys. It should be a pleasant experience.
It felt like you were a congressional panel. You know, this is Congress, and you were testifying, and you had. What I like is you were strong in your opinions, and they were well backed up by authorities. So we, asked you questions, giving you a few facts. You have to discern what law applies to our question, and then formulate an opinion on the fly. And I'd love to see panelists disagreeing with each other, because that's the point of having a panel, is to get, as fact finders, as someone, a congressional panel trying to make, determine whether a law should be enacted or how to draft a law, we need to have those opposing viewpoints, and you gave us that. And the substance was excellent. The opinions expressed were well-founded in authorities. I really like that you give us the year that a case was handed down, because that gives us context of, historically what might have been going on at that time. And how you had, it's easier to go back, in time into these old cases, because they've been well grounded, they've been well established. But when you talk about the newer cases, the law that's still evolving, those are the harder things to discuss and to interpret and to bring into your reasoning, and you did an excellent job with that. I'm very impressed with your hard work, and I commend you on it.
Yeah, I would echo all that. I thought you guys did a great job. I thought the presentation in particular was very well done. I also like the 3 eras that you defined. I like that you highlighted right off the bat, the inherent subjectivity of all of this and how difficult it is to draw these lines and make these decisions. Because to me, that's ultimately the answer to all of these questions. Well, it depends, and that's a hard question. And I like to get the kind of the flip side, the heckler's veto. I like the divergence of opinion on that during the presentation. And on the Q&A, you guys did a very good job. You had good case authority. I liked how it was anchored to Tinker and anchored to the case law. And I liked how you helped each other. Somebody was stumbling over a case name, and 2 or 3 of you chimed in to help, or somebody was tripping up on their words, and I could see somebody putting their hand forward, like, I got this, I'm here. Like, I'm serious. That shows that you're listening to each other, that you all know the subject matter, and that you have a level of comfort within that you can weave in and out of a discussion like that. So I think that's great. I pushed you on the off-campus activity, and that's a hot issue right now, right? I mean, all these social media posts that students are doing, and they find their way to campus, and they cause problems on campus, just as my underground newspaper probably causes problems on campus. And how are we going to grapple with those issues? I mean, I think that is the First Amendment issue right now. So I think it was great. You did wonderful. A little sick. I'm not going to take your hand. Nice work. Thank you very much. I'm a little sick. I'm not going to take your hand. All right.
Great job, you had 5.
See you. Good luck. Thank you.